Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dynamics Corner, the podcast where we dive deep into all things Microsoft Dynamics. Whether you're a seasoned expert or just starting your journey into the world of Dynamics 365, this is your place to gain insights, learn new tricks, and hear from industry experts. Transitioning from Dynamics GP to Business Central is like upgrading from a reliable old car to a modern electric vehicle. It's about embracing efficiency, innovation in the road to a more interconnected and streamlined future. I'm your co-host, Kris.
And this is Brad. This episode is recorded on April 2nd, 2024. Kris.
Yes.
Why would anybody use something other than BC? I ask myself that question regularly.
Well, we got the answer today.
Well, I don't know if we got the answer today, but today we had the opportunity to speak with someone about the transition from GP to BC. They offered a wide range of tips, and those tips can also be applied to any system moving to BC. Let's get everybody over to BC. With us today, we have the opportunity to speak with Cecile Dinh.
Hello.
Hi, Cecile. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Nice to see you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We've been looking for, already tongue-tied. I'm so excited. We've been looking forward to speaking with you for some time now. I like the nice shirt. I have one of those shirts, not one of those shirts. I have another shirt similar to that. Maybe I should have put it on.
My favorite shirt.
It's your favorite shirt? Why is it your favorite shirt?
Because I always show to the world, hey, I'm a Dynamics user group leader in Arizona.
Hey,
A superhero, a Dynamics user group superhero. But
right.
you do a number of things for the community. We appreciate all that you do, and you have some very interesting stories, which I hope to have the opportunity to speak with you about. But before we jump into that, would you mind telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Brad and Kris. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to share about myself. Yeah, so I've been first of all, I'm a missionary and a consultant. Yes, that's it. So I love sharing about Christ. I love sharing about Great Plains and Business Central. So yeah, I've been with Great Plains for 25 years. I'm still young, okay?
Wow.
25 years.
25
Kris,
years.
where were you 25 years ago?
Oh, I don't know. I was probably in high school. Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Yeah. I started my Great Plains journey back in 1997. Right after college, I had an accounting degree.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so 7 years of consulting experience in the Philippines, and then moved to Washington, D.C., continued my consulting career there before joining the user. So I'm now a user. So after 14 years of consulting, now 12 years as a end user. Yeah. And then, I have a list here. I want to share with you that I'm a Dynamics User Group Arizona leader, user group advisory, not tag advisory committee. Thank you. And then I have been a speaker for 7 years now. It started in 2018. I'm not sure if you were in the Dynamics community that time in 2018. It's in Arizona. That was my first presentation in Arizona.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, that's great. You do so much, and you do quite a bit. So you started in the Philippines working with Great Plains or GP,
Yes,
whatever name it may be, and then you moved over to Washington, D.C., and continued
that's
your consulting career. That must have been a big jump, even more so when you think of the timing, because you said you had done that, what, 12, 14 years ago, I believe?
yeah, that's right. And you know what? In the Philippines, we were the first Great Plains reseller in the
Oh,
Philippines that
wow.
time. So I started learning Great Plains through VHS. I know, Chris.
This is
Chris,
where I
you
was going with that time frame, because now if someone says, "Oh, I started here and then I moved," the technology has advanced, the content is more readily available online with recordings and sharing. But for you to make that change 25 years ago from the Philippines and then also move over to the United States back when I didn't even know if they had any training material for any of this on VHS back then. I remember VHS, and you had to get the little rewinder and rewind your tapes. But
exactly.
wow, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
And then, that time the Great Plains manual was printed. So every release, your manual it's not updated anymore. So it's it was really hard that time. Compared today, you have webinars, you have YouTube, you have podcasts. Everything is available in your fingertips.
Yes, it is. But
Yes.
I think life also was a little bit easier back then when you didn't have as much information, because you didn't have as much information to digest and consume, and it didn't seem like it was updated so much. But to your point, the information for all of these products is readily available to be consumed. It's just a matter of curating what you'd like to consume to make sure you can manage what you bring in. And
Yeah.
also, while doing this, you're also doing the missionary. Do you travel for that as well too?
Yeah, I remember, back then, I started my mission 2001, and then I will ask my boss, I will be off 10 days. Can we hold the implementation or get someone else to fill me in? And then my boss was like, Cecile, how many more missions you're gonna do this year? I said, don't worry, just one this year and then one next year.
And the one next year is 30 days, maybe, but that's okay. So it's longer.
Wow.
That's right. I love doing it. I think I would say this is the best decision I made in my life, being a missionary. And then that was my calling. That was my first calling. And then I remember I was ready to leave my consulting career back in the Philippines. I said, I'm going to do missionary full time. And I said, okay, Cecile, why don't you try it first for 10 days? I said, okay, I was in Vietnam. And that time, 2002, it was a little dangerous. They're not open yet. So we got the checklist, don't know do's and don'ts. And then first thing you have to remember, you should not get caught sharing the gospel, otherwise you go in jail. Okay,
Wow.
yes, sir. And then, so we were in the campus, 16 Filipinos, divided into two campuses. So I was in this campus, and then, you make friends first, then you share the gospel. They're Buddhists. So then we became friends. This lady was very nice to me. Then we were sitting at the near the gate. The police officer came. They're talking in Vietnamese, and then he said, I think in Vietnamese he said, "Who is she?" And then the lady would say, "Oh, she's sharing the gospel." Oh my goodness, that will be the end of my life. But I'm so glad she didn't say anything. She said, "Oh, she's my friend." So I think that was the
Wow.
most dangerous thing I did ever.
That
That
must have
must
been
have been,
nerve-wracking.
that
Oh,
definitely must have been scary, because it's something that
Yeah.
you see on TV or people talk about, but you don't get the sense of the emotion, as you had mentioned, when you're there in another country. That's the other thing, is when, a situation like that occurs, it's even more challenging, in my opinion, not to take away from anyone who has any challenges in their own country, but now you're in another country where you may not know the language, you don't know the people, and they have different rules, that some of these situations tend to be a little more nerve-wracking, I guess you could say, or make you afraid. But thankfully, it all worked out for you.
Cultural differences. I mean, there's so many to consider.
Well, thankfully, you were able to be successful on that mission and can continue to do many more, just as you have done with Great Plains and your transition into Business Central. And that is one of the things that I see with you quite a bit because of your history. You started off with Great Plains, you worked with Great Plains for a number of years, and now I see a lot of the content that you're doing as far as transitioning from Great Plains or GP to Business Central. And that in itself is another challenge or another topic that I see that you share as well. What type of challenges did you have with that? And what made you move from Great Plains to Business Central? I have a lot of questions about this, so if I ask too many, my mind is full of them.
Right. Actually, I'm still with ARC, Airlines Reporting Corporation. I'm a Dynamics GP admin there, and I've been there for 12 years. I know, right?
It goes fast. It goes fast.
My friend asked me, Cecile, are you retiring there? So, yeah, they're still in GP. And then in 2022, in one of our Dynamics Con Live in Texas, San Antonio, Texas, I remember Steve Endo said, Cecile, you go BC. And I said, okay. And then last week I was chatting with Steve. He said, do you still remember that? You said that to me? No, I don't. Oh, maybe you don't, but it really highlights me when you said that to me and say, go BC. And then that time, my friend in Australia, she is F&O. She said, okay, you want to learn? You want to go out GP, move to F&O? Here's your login account. So I was ready to go to F&O until Steve says, go BC. Okay, I go BC. So that's the beginning of my Business Central journey. And then I got connected with Shannon Mullins. And then she said, Cecile, I'm going to mentor you. So we started the journey. She gave me the environment. And I said, oh, I'm so happy I'm surrounded with those really nice MVPs.
They are both two excellent
they're amazing
individuals.
People.
And they do a lot for the community themselves, and they share a lot of information. I see Steve on Twitter or X, and I always say that I'm a groupie because he posts a lot of information, not only about Business Central, but about other security type things. And he's very good at driving.
And then, we have Kristen, we have Steve Jinsky, we have many, in our Business Central family who's really willing to help. And then, we have this now, I have launched this, dog superheroes webinar. So we've been doing this for four times already. So I said, oh, I think this is so nice because I was thinking, oh, maybe I should do something to get these superheroes winners to be connected. So that was the goal. So I got the previous year, 2022, 2023, my batch. So I'm waiting for the 2024 superhero winners to be in our, superhero family.
No, that's good. I think I saw the nominations. There's a lot of great individuals that contribute a lot.
Hard choice.
It was very hard. Yes, very hard to vote on that because everyone offers their own information and own skill and their own additives to the community. It's very tough to always choose from a list like that to get it down to a couple. So you do a lot, and that's so there's a lot of individuals that are in a similar position to where they worked with GP or they're working with GP, and they have someone like Steve come up to them and say, go BC, and they decide to go to BC.
Yeah.
So then there comes the challenge of, how do I migrate, or how do I move or transition or get prepared to go to BC?
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly. Yeah. Last week I had this webinar with, of course, with Doug and partnership with Dynamics World. So I got that uh, the ultimate the ultimate beginner's guide, GP to BC. So I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wait, to hear the feedback. So I started receiving comments about, the webinar. And one of the attendees said, oh, Cecile, thank you so much for the webinar. One of my staff is having a struggle from GP to BC. And I said, okay, because in my intro of that webinar, I really emphasized how I struggled learning Business Central. Because imagine 25 years of GP, you're the guru, you know everything, even your eyes closed.
yes,
Even my eyes closed, I can navigate the screen, every field, every tables. So, and now I'm switching over to BC, and I started 2 years ago. I was frustrated. I was oh my goodness, it is a real struggle because you're now into something that you don't know. That's very uncomfortable.
yes,
And
it is scary to move from something that you have that comfort of to now going to something that's new to you, where you have, in your case, 25 years of history, and some other members of the community that use GP may have many years, to now go into outside of their comfort zone and the challenges that must present.
Yeah,
right,
entirely
exactly.
something brand new that, now it's cloud-based, browser-based, and kind of relearn as if you're, how you started 25 years ago, right? So it's almost sort of like a reset. But the good thing is you have some of that foundation information from GP.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, my comparison in that webinar intro, it was about having this. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Sam's Club, and then you switch over to Costco, and then your navigation is completely different. The branding is different. In Business Central, you now call it work date. It's a user date in GP. So I tried to kind of give them this is how you do it in BC, and then now it's like different brand. So in in my in my webinar, I said, okay, let's navigate through the aisles and the sections.
So but to bring that back, you talked about in your webinar some of the challenges that you've had. And was that webinar recorded? Is it available for others to view, or was it not?
I believe it will be uploaded, but right now it's not yet available. Yeah.
So we could maybe reference that in the future. But what are some of the challenges? So if you go back to that webinar and even think of your journey going from GP to Business Central, what are some of the challenges or some of the points that you wish you knew or you thought you should have focused on before you made that transition? So you talked about the work date versus the user date, but somebody who's making that journey, do you have any advice or tips that you would give them, that these are the things you must look at to help minimize your struggle? There always will be a challenge, but how would you suggest somebody minimizes that challenge?
Yes, that's right. In that webinar, I really walk the users. I mean, as an attendee of the webinar, you will be able to walk through and then see how I learn it from GP to BC. It is just like having just one screen. Become an expert in BC in just one screen. For example, contacts, just one screen and contacts, and then learn the fields all over the screen, from the navigation bar, from the icon on the right, and then the fast tab, the fact box. And then once you master that window, you go to different windows in BC, it's the same. You will see fact box, you will see fast tab, you will see the lookup, you will see the icon. same icons everywhere. But in the beginning, it's scary because where will I begin? Where do I start? And then those action bars and all these fields in the window, it will show you at first like, oh my goodness, it's so familiar. I'm scared to navigate on these fields. That's the scary part. It is like you go in the ocean and you don't know how deep it is, and you just try to feel the waters. If you're gonna go forward or go deeper, and then you will realize, oh, it's not that scary at all. Yeah.
No, it's you hit a key point, and we had Kenny on as a previous guest, and he had a saying is, the question was, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And some others we've had conversations with mentioned, climbing a mountain. How do you get to the top of a mountain, one step at a time? And your recommendation of not being afraid or overwhelmed by the application, but pick one area and then start to learn that area and then slowly progress to other areas of the application. And you also hit on another key point, which I like about Business Central, and you take it sort of figuratively. It's the same. If you understand how to work with a customer card, as they call it, then the vendor card is similar. You had mentioned starting with the contacts. All of the card type things are similar. And then working with journals, you have your general journals, your sales journal, your purchase journal, as well as posting a sales order, a purchase order. So it's a very good point that you mentioned that it's similar elsewhere, and to just focus on that one area. You use a lot of the good terminology.
Yeah. It's I think a lot of that's more like translation of some of the things. The process are very close. It's just learning to navigate. That's usually, a lot of the people that I've worked with in the past, where they're coming from an entirely different ERP system to Business Central. A lot of that's a good conversation of like, okay, what are you trying to do? And then be able to translate that in Business Central. In many cases, it's going to be very similar. It's just knowing what it's called, right? You just have to translate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, if you will notice my blog, dincecile.com, it's GP to BC adventure series. And I made it in a way where you will follow from the admin side going to the setup. That's how I design it. So if you see my very first adventure, like day one, you will see the database, because when I was learning BC, I will look at the videos. I will look at it jumped right ahead to the Business Central, and for me going to understand this, and I said, oh my goodness, how can I translate it back to GP where I came from? So that was the struggle for me. Where's my database? I'm familiar with SQL, all this database, right? But where is that in BC? So that's where I started. I leverage what I know, what I already know, and then bring it over to Business Central. I think that's the main key in learning BC. Leverage what you already know.
So your suggestion, again, to overcome the challenge of moving is to leverage what you know and try to find the similar process. And as Kris's point to the terminology, and that's one of the things that I had first come across of your journey from Business Central. I knew a lot of what you have done, and I've seen you around for years, but recently, I think it was within the last year, you started that blog about the GP to BC journey, and it's intended to guide someone through the process. And you started talking about the approach that you're taking to guide someone through that. So what are some other processes that you covered or suggest that someone goes through when they're migrating from GP to Business Central?
Yes, very timely, because I'm writing a book.
You're writing a book.
I'm writing a book, my very first time. Oh my goodness.
Very cool. Yeah.
Writing a book. I'm envious. I see all of these individuals writing the books, and I'm envious of them for doing it. That is one of those tasks that's similar to eating an elephant or climbing a mountain. I love to mountain climb. It just seems like a daunting task. Can you talk about the book at all?
Yes. So this is more about not just migration of GP to BC, because sometimes the struggle is how can I get my data? How can I get my master file from GP so I can move it over to BC? And then I also emphasize, how to prepare your data, because you don't want to bring garbage over to BC. It's so
Oh, you
nice,
don't?
it's so you don't.
Oh, how many conversions do you go through, Kris, where someone says, I want everything. Just bring
Oh,
everything.
it's too many of those requests. It's like saying, I want a brand new car, Ferrari or whatever. It's like, but I want my bucket seats to my new car. Okay. That's what I want. That's how I look at it. When someone says, I want everything, that's how I look at it.
So, sorry to take away from that, but so one of the thing is preparation of data. So what is the? Do you have the title of the book yet?
Yes, it's very simple. GP to BC migration. No. Let
Keep
me
it
just
simple.
make it
GP to
simple.
BC migration.
Yeah. Let me just go real quick. It is. I thought about this title so many times. Migrating from Dynamics GP to Business Central, and a step-by-step guide, seamless GP to BC migration strategies. That's a long
Excellent. No, it's a
Straight to
nice
the
title.
point.
It's catching and fitting. And you mentioned you start off with data management, and the data management as far as preparing your data of what you need to
time.
do to move from GP to BC. Not to give away too
Right.
many tips now, but what is your number one suggestion for that area?
Well, the first thing is really understand the GP, what you have in GP, what functionalities you use in GP, and understand the Business Central functionalities, because that's what you will learn later on. Oh, I want to use this functionality, but how will you know if you don't know? So you have to kind of familiarize yourself in a Business Central functionalities. That's a lot. It's wonderful.
So is
Yeah.
your suggestion to learn the functionality of Business Central to some degree before you start your data migration? Because I know those migrations, people try to do like the mapping of the data before they even
Mhm.
use the application. And sometimes I
Yeah.
bang my head going, how can you determine what you want to map and move if you don't even know how it's going to be used?
Or how
You
it
can
works.
guide or direct, but becomes difficult.
Okay, I'm gonna use this example. You're gonna go on a trip. You're going to Dubai. Okay, so you prepare your ticket, your luggage, and everything. But of course, you wanna prepare. There's a certain days. Let's say, for example, you have 5 days in Dubai. What will you do in that 5 days? You have to plan out in advance to maximize the trip, right? So it's like the implementation. You prepare in advance what you want to do during that 5 days, so that you won't miss anything. So I think the best way is do not rush your integration. Review your master data. Is this what you want? Review your dimensions, especially if you're renewing your chart of accounts. Review the chart of accounts. Because in well, as you know, we have these segments in chart of accounts. Everything you have to do with the combination that you can think of. So instead of having this 100 chart of accounts, you ended up 100,000. It is long combination. So that's
I,
the thing
I
that.
like your analogy there, Cecile, when you're traveling. It's like you're going to go to the Philippines and you bring jackets with you and boots and everything. And then you realize you get there and it's like, I didn't even need this at
That's what you
all.
got from that, Kris? I got when Cecile's book's out, and after she starts selling it, she's taking me to Dubai. That's what I got from that conversation.
I got it from like nice and weather because it's beautiful down there. So
No, it's so your first step on the migration process is learn the BC functionality, and then understand the data and determine what you need to do with your data.
Exactly. And
After that
you know,
journey, where do you
yeah.
go?
Well, of course, you review your data, and then do you still need this customization? Maybe not, because it's already in BC. So saving some effort, that's why it's so important. Not everything in GP goes to BC, because there might be functionality there. For example, right now we have this, in GP you have to log in your you have to type in your login ID and enter your password. Unless you go, a third party product, so that it will be a single sign on. Well, in GP, it is now, in BC, it's now single sign on. So, you're saving money from here. So review the third party products you have in GP.
Would you, is your recommendation then as you part of learning the functionality, determining the data, to start to run to process your business? I'm asking this question because it came to my mind. I've gone through several migrations and I've gone through several conversions, right, from other systems. I call them, migrations, whatever term you want to use, migration, conversion, upgrade, this or that. And that's one thing that I sometimes question is, some people identify modifications that they need before they even try to run their business in the application. So your recommendation, it sounds like, try to run some of your business processes in BC before you worry about bringing a modification that you may have brought over, because just to plug BC, because it's near and dear to my heart, it may do it better already.
Or automated, right? So I think a lot of that too is important for organizations to really identify their processes and document those processes, because a lot of times when you're working with a consultant, they will tell you that if it's already part of Business Central, unless you're doing the implementation yourself. But documentation is key in gathering requirements, right? Because then you can translate, okay, is this already out of the box? Does this already exist? And that, to me, that's an easier way to approach it versus figure it out way later, way after, because you've already customized it and then not realizing you could do this out of the box. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are companies who will hire other partners just to do the requirement analysis, and it will last for probably 2 months just for requirement analysis. So, and then it takes longer because you are not familiar with your own requirement. So that's unless the partner will ask, how about this, it's just asking questions. But as internal, you can start doing what the partner is doing by asking your team, asking each department in AP, hey, what do you want to happen in the future? What do you see? What do you think is the benefit? So asking questions, because at the end of the day, you will ask, why are you migrating to BC?
Yes,
yeah,
your requirements gathering is important because you hit a couple of key points. Your requirements of what would you like to do, and maybe even why are you doing it? Because sometimes those people that are working in positions may not really understand why they do things a certain way or why it's occurring, or they may want to do, as you talked about, depending upon the age of the application, printing the PDF may not have been available and it was a customization before, but now Business Central has it and you can schedule it. But if you tried to make that as a requirement or a modification or something that you need before seeing the application or understanding why you did something, you can just bring the same stuff forward, which you ask the
Right.
question, why are you even moving if you're trying to replicate the exact same business process?
yes,
Right. It's let's take the improvements of part of it. So one of the things that you're also recommending is to start your true requirements gathering and understanding what you need, what you would like to do, and maybe why you're doing something today a certain way, to see if it really has to be done that way.
an
Exactly.
internal gathering, requirements gathering, right? Don't wait for a partner to do that for you. You could do a lot of these things yourself.
Exactly. And you will save a lot of money if
Yes.
you do
And
start.
time. And time. It's money and time because you can come you come to the meetings prepared.
Yes.
So it's not a matter of, okay, go find your requirements for, finance, go find your requirements for, sales. You
That's
can
right.
come with it already saying, here's our requirements. And then the partner or whomever's working with you can then ask questions of those requirements to meet you there. So it saves a lot of time and a lot of back and forth, in my opinion.
Exactly. Here's another tip. So, for example, chart of accounts. And as you know, in GP, we have limited chart of, I would say, segments, because there are companies, they didn't want to stretch all your segments available. you have 10 segments available, but you don't want to do that, because you will have long list of chart of accounts. And then what I found out is, in the requirement analysis, you can have this design where this is your current chart of account. This is the additional dimensions. So you start create your own Excel. Having this format. Here's your chart of accounts. Here's the additional segments, because we want to have this ability to. That's the word. Have your Excel sheets with this word, ability to. Yeah.
Well, it's a great suggestion to start. So as they continue the journey, let's walk through the journey again as some of the struggles, challenges, and recommendations, even as you're putting together your book. How close are you to completing the book? To throw that in there.
Not even close. It's not going to be available in DynamicsCon Live, but it will be available in the summit, the North American Summit.
Excellent.
So help me to get in, okay? So I still have to submit my session today.
You hurry up. You have tomorrow still, so hopefully get it.
I know.
And if your book is available, then I hope to get a copy before then. I will have. Yes, Kris had mentioned we have to get you back, but I need a signed copy.
Yes, me too.
I want to be the first Kris. No, I need to be the first autographed copy of the book.
Yeah. So I love having these comments from different people. Hey, Cecile, do it this way. I love when Kenny. I met him at the conference, North American conference last October, and then he was actually the one who really said, "Hey, Cecile, we need this GP to BC. We need someone to help out." And then he initially asked me to do the documentation online. I said, Kenny, I'm struggling with the GitHub because I said I couldn't put my pictures there.
That's great. So that inspired you to do the book, which is great, and it's much needed, I think.
Yes,
because GP or Great Plains, whatever you'd like to call it, is widely used, and a lot of individuals of that application are moving over to Business Central. So now to have a resource available to them in your book that they can follow and go through for suggestions is great. So what are some of the other things that you cover through this GP to Business Central journey within this book?
Well, of course, there's the highlight of the migration itself, the step-by-steps, because there are settings, that you need to make sure it is correct. It is not just, click migrate. It's, there are settings like to-do list before you do the migration, and then how to validate, what to do after the migration. So what you need to do with your team.
What are some of your suggestions for that?
Of course, you have the team must be present. You form the team before even starting this project. So that who's your migration team? So who will lead? Who will be doing the PM? There are certain group in a company that you must have a dedicated team because
Yeah, yeah.
because in my last implementation, the problem was we set the go live date January 31st, and then we're not ready yet because we're still catching up with the previous year's data. Of course, we didn't have enough resources. So they did not anticipate that, but of course we kind of extend the go live. But the thing is, when you do the migration, you're doing two jobs. You're still parallel. You're doing GP as normal. You're doing your BC. So that requires a lot of dedication, and then the timeline, and then of course the training. You kind of what they need to learn. So I will be highlighting in the book some of the translation, like terminology translation, build batch in GP, suggest vendors in Business Central. So those maps. It's like we're on a trail. We're gonna have this map, to have a successful migration.
I like
Oh,
the
that
way that you pointed out that you do have to build an internal team, whether that's a few people, but somebody has to take ownership of that. I love that you're adding that in there, because that gets forgotten. It's almost like you don't just give to a partner and then the partner will do everything for you. You have to have an advocate for your organizations to fully understand how the system's going to work for your business. And yes, sometimes you have to do dual work, right? Where you have to do your day-to-day and then putting maybe a couple hours, but you got to stick to that. You got to be consistent, because it is a big investment when you're moving
Mm-hmm.
from one system to another. So I think your book's going to help encourage that, because that's missed a lot.
Well, I think the book will help with that, but that is
Yeah.
also a key point, Chris, is you need to have ownership of the implementation. And that's one of the steps to having a successful implementation. Trying to give the ownership to someone else and saying, just tell me how to do it, isn't going to be successful, because it will be stressful. They don't understand your business. They're not the ones working with it day to day. So you do need to have someone internal working with it. But then also, when you do have internal staff working and managing and running the project, you had mentioned they do have their jobs to do too, but there also needs to be adequate time afforded for them to be able to do what they need to do. It's not so easy for them to run forever, doing their quote day job as well as learning the new system. There should be time allocated. It's an investment, and you want your investment to be successful. So give the opportunity. It sounds like you have some great tips in this book. I just want to keep digging at them to get some highlights of it. So you
Cecile.
talked about the terminology.
Hold on, Cecile, you and I have to co-present something.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really excited with this journey, because I know there's a lot out there that is, trying to learn Business Central and got frustrated. Have you heard this? You fight, you flight, and then you freeze. You freeze in the middle because it's like, oh my goodness, uh, I need to pause and then walk for a minute and then come back. It happens to me several times when I'm learning Business Central. It is because you're forcing yourself, and then it's like, my illustration earlier. You are in the ocean, and then there's waves, and then you sometimes, I want to go back, back out. It's so easy to back out, but sometimes, you just, when you hear someone who is struggling like you, I think it helps, like, oh, I'm not alone. I felt that when I received this comment from the webinar last week. Oh, I have a staff who is also struggling with the learning BC. The struggle is real. And then I ask another friend, do you feel the same way? Oh yeah, I do.
Any new process is a challenge, and it's okay, because we all have to learn something the first time. It's a
Right.
big thing it's a big struggle to get through. It's just that saying, it's okay for me to not know and ask for help and learn. which
Right.
that's my tip for your book. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I did to my last implementation of GP to BC. This is very helpful if you are consultants and you are now into this implementation. Users will appreciate a screenshot. For example, how to go to void a transaction. You can have a screenshot and then guide them. You click this first, click and click. This is how you do it. That's the main struggle when you go from GP to BC. You're lost. You don't know instantly where is it. Unlike in GP, you could just click, go here, step 1, 2, and 3. So screenshot. They love screenshots.
So a big tip right there is include screenshots to help with the translation of the business processes from GP to BC. These are a lot of great tips, and I can see why your blog is so successful as it walks through the journey. And I know this book will be successful too, because it helps with the transition from GP or any other product if they follow the same strategy. I'm listening to what you're saying is you're giving specifics with GP, but it could be a strategy that you follow for book 2. Again, idea for book 2 for you, how to implement a new system, right? So you can take your GP strategy and just say, extract from it and have the strategies, because you hit some key points that for somebody who's listening who may not have GP and may have something else, they can go through to it. So what else? I'm excited to learn more or hear more about the journey from GP to BC, some of the struggles or some of the tips and tricks that you have to make it successful.
Yeah, I think aside from navigation, having the familiarity with the words, the terminologies, I think that's the main key, because we cannot understand each other if I say pack box and then you don't know what pack box is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. What is that?
Close the pack box. What's pack box? That box over there. There's a hide and showing high button right there.
On the right side.
On the right side.
I think the terminology can go for some people who've been using BC for quite a while, because I sometimes hear different words for different things too. So
right. And then also, when you're learning how to drive, it's uncomfortable, when you're behind the wheel yourself, then that's where you can feel, oh, this is how we do it. Someone said to me, yeah, Cecile, it's really different when you're just watching Microsoft Learn or YouTube and you're not doing it. I would say it's not gonna be it's not gonna sink as fast as you want. So
gotta link that muscle memory.
It's a key point. It's always easier to watch somebody else do something, but once you start clicking and doing it yourself, then you can remember it. Because I've watched things, I'm like, that's easy, I'll remember how to do that, and then when the time comes, I freeze. I forgot. What is it that they have done? So having that step-by-step process, so even having your guides with the screenshots to help somebody guide through so that they can have a reference to remember and even take notes on it potentially, to get individuals to go through and perform the actions themselves.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And also, stay updated, listen to those webinars. I have so much to-do list, and then sometimes when I when I browse on LinkedIn and I see, oh, this is a good article or blog or webinar, I will send it to my personal email and then watch it later, because I will lose the link. It's so many, so that's what I do. I send it to my personal email, and then when I have time, I will go and watch the webinar or read the article.
No, that's good. As part of this, what other tips can you give? I'm going to keep asking for tips until you say we don't have any more tips.
You gotta wait for the book.
I will wait for the book. I will read the book. because it will present me with some knowledge of GP. So if I encounter individuals that have questions about GP to BC, I'll have a reference to go for it. But also, Kris, as I had mentioned, it could be a guide or a source to how to have a successful BC implementation. I think that's something that we need to extrapolate out from these types of how-tos, because there are many products out there. Some people coming from an application that was developed internally, or even I've worked with people who were managing their businesses with Excel and have moved. So, it's just kind of what type of process you should go through to migrate. So what are some other big tips that you have?
I think I would say transaction mapping. Oh my goodness, I'm giving away all the tips already.
That's okay. It's for a good audience. Transaction mapping.
So, for example, I'm a visual learner, so I always do screenshots. So, for example, this is what you do in GP. This is the transaction, and then I take a screenshot, and then on the right side, I take a screenshot how to do it in BC. This is what I did in my recent implementation. So mapping, it's not really mapping up for integration, data integration. It's a mapping for the end users to relate it to BC easily, because you will need number of hours to be really comfortable with BC. But for them, they just see BC how many days. So having this transition, this is my transactions, daily transactions. I start with journal entry. Or if it is AP, here's my invoice, here's my check payment. How do I avoid? List down the activities, the routines that they do daily, and then map it out to Business Central. That's a great help for them.
So you're mapping the process, right, from one system to another, and that's important. I think that's an amazing tip that you're sharing here. So I think what they need to do, for those who are listening to this podcast or watching,
Chris,
they would need to make sure that they join your sessions or your speaking sessions and stuff like that. They need to follow your blog, because
the webinars, the Doug webinars for Arizona.
Yes.
The webinars that you have on GP, and your speaking sessions, which we'll talk about soon. But I still I'm hungry for tips, not steak tips, not chicken tips or turkey tips. I'm hungry for Business Central tips. You are now going to be on my speed dial for Business Central tips.
Tips, okay. The tips actually is more, if, for example, you're still in an evaluation phase and you wanted to buy in, hit the buy in. So you, as an internal admin, you can do everything you want to, everything you could. You will be the salesperson in your own company. I think I did my best already.
Convincing the organization to
that's not an easy job. That is not an easy task, because taking everybody from their comfort zone, from the business owner, that my business has been running, now I'm going to trust somebody to take this and put it into a different application. The individuals that work on a day-to-day basis, they get up every morning, they go to work, they have their safe environment where they feel comfort knowing that they know how to process and do their position, to now convince them to, okay, you're going home on Friday. Come Monday morning, you're going to have a new system.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm one of the rare situation where I'm the GP admin and I'm certified in BC. So I don't know, maybe there are people out there, but I think I have not met someone like that you're the GP admin and you're certified in BC. So I kind of market myself. Hey, I'm certified in BC.
You got to do it. It's rare.
Exactly. And then I demo. Hey, I send email to finance, and then I say, hey, I'm gonna demo Business Central. So I prepared, all these functionalities gonna show. And then I can help out as well for them to see that Business Central is really good. But, well, the budget is not there yet, so it got delayed for 2 years. So it's understandable. But what I'm trying to say is, don't waste your time in kind of, oh, I will just show it to them when the budget comes or 2 years later. So I started it now. So I think
That's good. It brings
Patience.
comfort. It goes back to bringing the comfort, which is important for somebody to know that they have comfort in going, because also now you're demonstrating knowledge within the application. So you have understanding. You understand the internal business processes because you have gone through a mapping exercise of the business processes. Now you can take those business processes and not only give them a terminology or a definition, which you'll have in your book, but also this is how we do a general journal in GP, if they call it a general journal. And this is how you do that same process in Business Central. See, you can do it.
That's
And
right.
hopefully they have it. The budget's always something that gets in the way. But
Right.
I think we should just say that there are no budget issues and everyone should just use BC.
Just do
And
it.
Also, if you are a GP admin and you wanted to learn BC, get your current process in GP and then do it in BC. So at first it was like, how can I do this in this process? How can I do this in Business Central? As if you are the consultant playing a role, like you're the solution architect, you're the trainer, and you're the consultant. I think that's the best way to learn as well.
There's a lot of planning, like you mentioned. If you start now, start collecting all the information. Yeah, it's going to require some planning in terms of getting budgets for it. But you have the passion to move to Business Central. I mean, there's a lot of community-driven sessions that are either local chapter to you or joining the Dynamics user group or the summit that happens. I mean, there's so many different ways. Webinars, like you said, Cecile, that alone can bring a lot of value to help convince the organization that, hey, this is why you'll be much more efficient with Business Central, right?
Yes, there's a large number of resources and opportunity available to the staff to learn and to excel and to move forward with Business Central.
I actually, I'm still putting this together in my mind. How would I execute this program? It's more of a GP to BC mentorship program for those who are currently in GP and wanted to learn BC. So I'm still thinking something like mentorship program where there will be some hands-on workshop. There will be Q&A. I will invite people to join, the MVPs, and then they can ask questions. Oh, this is how you do it. So, because sometimes when we go on a workshop, it's so overwhelming. It's like, oh, I don't know how to proceed on this. But if the workshop is really tailored by, in a sequence, so I think that would be nice.
I think it's a good idea. That is a good idea.
Yeah.
And you can have it where they can do in person, they can do online, recorded, step by step. I think it's good. And I'll keep going back. Start off with GP, but you could use the same approach for any product, even those going from Nav to Business Central. It's a good opportunity for them to learn that. I'll ask you this question. See what your answer is. Which do you like better, GP or BC?
BC.
That's it. That's the true story.
Right, that's spoken from a longtime GP user and admin who has learned BC. That BC is the light. Business Central, bring on. It's been my life since it was a baby Navision. Then it was in its teen years to Microsoft Dynamics Nav. Now it's in the prime of its life as Business Central.
Brad, does that mean that people that are in Nav thinking about BC, there should be no excuse now? Because if Cecile coming from GP says BC is great, Nav folks, if you're still in Nav, there's no excuse. You got to go to BC.
Go to BC. Even the GP
or SL.
I told SL.
Books.
I keep saying SL. Like, I don't even know where that existed, but back in 1999.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, Cecile, this has been a great conversation. You shared a lot of information. I am excited for the book to be released. I am excited to get an autographed copy.
I want an autograph.
No, I'm the first one. She already said, and it's recorded, that I will be the one that gets the first autographed copy. So before you even sign it for your family and everybody else, you have to send me one. I'll buy it. Okay. I believe in supporting everybody in this community.
Yes.
I will purchase the book. I just want it to be signed. So even if I have it shipped to your house, and then I'll even pay for you to ship it to me, but I want an autographed copy. But you going to directions? Not going to directions. You're going to DynamicsCon Live.
Yeah.
That's
You're going
right.
to DynamicsCon Live. Yes, directions, because you're working for an end user at this point. DynamicsCon Live, you're going to, and will you be presenting at DynamicsCon Live to recap that?
Yes.
Which session will you be doing?
GP to BC migration.
Whoa! How? See, only if we could find a way to expedite the publishing of that book, because you could have it in your session. You could say, attend the session,
right?
and I'll give away one free copy.
Yeah.
You could say, I give you a digital code, so when it gets released, get a free one.
That's
and
right.
then you can't give away signed copies until after I get it. And then you're going to submit you said you haven't submitted your sessions for Summit yet, but hopefully you will be selected to present. And I'm certain, I can't be certain, but I want to say I'm certain. I'm hopeful that they will pick that session, because I think with that conference, there are individuals that will be using GP. There's a GP track, and there's also a BC track. So I think that's a good transition or a connector between the two tracks. You're also doing great things with Doug and your Arizona group. I see you doing some online events. I try to attend them, but sometimes scheduling conflict kills me, but I will try to keep popping in there. I pop in there every now and then, and you do some great things. Where else can somebody who has any questions about GP to BC migration, about your book, or even some mission questions, if somebody has anything about how to get involved or active in that type, it's very, in my opinion, and it's even been proven, doing good things for others actually releases chemicals in your body to make you feel good. So donating time, giving charity, helping others that may be struggling or have challenges is actually a good thing to do for humanity, along with yourself, to make yourself feel good. So how can someone get a hold of you or see some of the other great things that you're doing in the world? Because you do it not only just in this community, but you also do it for the planet.
Right. So my church website is valleygatechurch.org. Valley, because it's the Arizona. It's the son of the valley.
So it's Valley Gate?
Valley Gate, because gate is where you enter in. That's why.
Valleygate.org is the church. We'll put that link in the show notes.
BGC, Valley Gate Church.
ValleyGateChurch.org.
ValleyGateChurch.org. Okay.
Yeah. So you will see our updates there. Sometimes we do events, and then we post photos there. We also have that in Instagram, Facebook, and then I also mentor ladies. Sorry, guys, only ladies.
And that's okay.
That's okay. That is perfectly
I mentor
fine.
ladies. That's right. So I know, right? Sometimes I mentor ladies about marriage, about some some challenges. I learned that I can listen for straight 4 hours. I didn't know I can do that. I said, I was able to do it. Yeah, so it's more on counseling. So I did that too.
No, that's good.
event.
Everybody does need a mentor, and they should not be ashamed or embarrassed to have a mentor, because talking with somebody, you can get different perspective. They have different understanding, different experiences, to maybe bring a different perspective to help you go through a challenging time. It doesn't even have to be a challenging time, even making a decision in life, right? It's not challenging. Some people think it always has to be a bad or negative. That is often what individuals refer to it as, but seeking assistance from a mentor is not something that anybody should be embarrassed about, because it's self-help.
It's like you listen to respond. Sometimes just someone to listen to is helpful, right?
Yeah,
very, very helpful.
Exactly. Yeah, I do it in Zoom. So last time I counseled from Dubai and then Philippines. It's like, just the time zone difference is okay as long as I'm available. And then I have a friend said, Cecile, where do you buy time? I'll buy it. Because they said, I couldn't believe you're doing all these things. You volunteer at the church, your staff, you do kids church, you do this counseling, you mentor ladies, and then you do webinars, you do blogs, you do conferences, you do all these things.
I'm tired just thinking of it.
And one more thing, I'm sure you'll mention it. You're also helping a summit that is happening in the Philippines as well, which is you're certainly involved around that too.
That's right. And Kris also, we are planning about this event in the Philippines for the first time. Conference in the Philippines it's a Tech Bayanihan, Tech Bayanihan, the empowering the future. There you go.
No, that's great. That is a great cause and conference. And Kris told me that he's going to buy my ticket to the Philippines for that conference.
It'd be a long trip for you, a long flight.
It will be a very long trip, but it will be worth it. And it's even more so because you'll be paying for it.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like you're doing some great things, and I appreciate it. And I'm tired thinking of all the things you're doing. But it just goes to show you, if you have some focus and you put some attention to things, you can accomplish a lot. And you're definitely doing that.
And your passion actually shows that too, which I love hearing you talk about it. So keep doing what you're doing.
Sometimes I ask myself, Lord, what am I doing here? Because I ask, Lord, why did you bring me here in this conference? Why do you let me meet all these people? Because in my belief, in everything is not an accident. There's a reason why you meet certain people. There's a reason why you are in that location. So I just take it. That's the beauty. Whenever I share the gospel to other people, it is like you are in a cruise ship, and I'm the one telling you have a VIP access, unlimited Wi-Fi, buffet, and access to the CEO. I say, do I have that privilege? Yes, you do. So that's why. That's how I gonna put it together.
It's a good way to look at things. So as far as getting in contact with you, do have your blog. We'll put that link on that you mentioned before. It's dincecile.com. And we'll put a link into
my LinkedIn is also dincecile.com.
We'll put a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well. And
it's all Din Cecile.
It's all Din Cecile.
It's all Din Cecile. YouTube, Din Cecile. Go to Twitter or X. It's Din Cecile. Yeah.
I wonder when we'll stop calling it Twitter. I don't think it will ever change, but that's another point. That is. But thank you again. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. You do quite a number of things, as you had just mentioned, and you talked about the time with buying it. Unfortunately, we can't buy time. Time is the currency of life. Once you spend it, you can never get it back. So Kris and I both appreciate you taking your time to speak with us and the listeners, to share some tips and tricks for the GP migration. Also how you can how you can use that to maybe move any other system, or how to do a successful BC implementation. And we're both extremely excited to see the book release and see you in Denver.
Yeah, see you in Denver. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cecile.
Ciao, ciao.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.